Hello everyone, this is Tomas Bumbulevičius aka Tom 10 and we are traveling around the Baltics, and this time we are landed at Estonia, where we are going to participate in Tartu Marathon race. It's 25th edition of Tartu Marathon, powered by Hawaii Express. And we are here at the first starting gate. So if I'm not mistaken, in the past years participants were arranged in their gates based on their previous starting times. This year it was a different story, and I will elaborate about this a bit more after we start. And here at the first gate we are the few Lithuanian guys at the first starting gate. Some of them were already participated in previous year's events. Some, just like me, was there for the first time, and we will get into everything in a moment. And here you can see we already off to the start, and it was rainy in the morning and you will see that at the first spurt, at the first sprint, everyone is already braking a lot, because you can see that we are straight into the mud. Thankfully it was not long enough, or at least long enough. And I just try to keep on the left in this initial segment, and for those who see this highlights of mine for the first time, I usually implement some segments from Strava. So you can see on the left there is a table of top 10 times for the participants on the race day. And before that moment you could have seen there was a description about the segment, and under the progress bar at the top you can see the white line with orange square, which showcases the progress of the segment. So you could have a bit of an idea how that section of the course is going to happen, and it will also be included in the full onboard. So that's kind of a way to navigate through the onboard and in general have a look how you participated in compared to others. And you can see that for the first segment I was 84th on the day. So that's among the participants who already shared their activities publicly, and for those who use Strava as well. So you can see that at the start I tried to keep on the left, and even though it was not always on the best possible course, I just tried to overtake as much as possible, guys. And here on the asphalt, if you see someone who's just going at free speed 5 or 6 minutes into the race, that's an indication that you are not at the right place of the course. And for that reason I just tried to sprint on this uphill no matter what, because I knew that as soon as we go up it will be very long downhill, very fast rolling. So that was kind of a way to sprint on that uphill. And you can see that there were quite a lot of participants who used gravel type of bikes. So you can guess that on these type of track conditions where it's paved road, they were flying. And the 30-60 oval, it was very hard to keep their speed. I'm also going to mention that I was participating in this race on Scott's Park full suspension bike. So it was a bit of a struggle to keep that speed after the gravel, or maybe in some cases we were road bikes with a bit wider tires. But you can see that for the first 5 kilometers I averaged more than 400 watts. So that's a lot for me, but at the same time it was more or less most of the time uphill. So that's a reasonable number. And you can see that it's just a casual situation when you are being overtaken by other a lot faster guys, And what you can do is just to make sure that no one is coming behind him, and then you just try to, at least try to, contain and maintain their speed as well. Even if it's not always possible for you to use the same speed as guys in front does, at least that extra burst of an effort moves you up front a bit. And you can see that here, even though on not very good traction road, they are flying with those bikes. And here I just tried to put some extra effort to catch the group, but no chance for me. And I knew that in front there's going to be some grass section and an uphill, so that hopefully could be my case. So yeah, I came here from not straight from Lithuania. 1 week ago I participated in Latvia's APE Epic, which was 100 kilometers race, and afterwards I decided not to go back to Lithuania and instead spend that almost a week in Estonia, explore something there, and then also participate in Tartu for the first time. Here the guys for some reason let off the throttle, and I'm not of those type who wants to go slower than he can, so I just put that effort from my end, and others responded as well. So thankfully most of the time I haven't had to ride alone, and there was some participants around. In some cases, like here, I was a bit too long after this guy in front, and on the right there was Artūras Gelžinis, our Lithuanian who participated here for the first time, and he just went through me, and I kind of lost that moment of time when I could have tried to sit on his wheel, and then again it requires an extra effort to go back, and yeah, it just some additional power requirements from you if you just miss that moment. And here because he was behind the guy on the other not MTB like bike, so Artūras lost a bit of a moment in that corner, and I managed to overtake him here. But you can see that in front there was a guy with hardtail bike, and he just added the drops instead of casual MTB handlebars. So that was also maybe I couldn't say the very often case in this race, but guys were trying to make out of their bikes as much as possible in order to make them more aerodynamic. And as mentioned, the good thing was that I managed to stay in the groups for most of the time, but if I'm not mistaken here, it will be a situation where after the corner I managed to stay with them for a while, but then they very fast accelerate and you just lose the moment, the gap opens, and what's left for you to do, it's one of the two options. Either you try to catch them back, or you just swim away and either wait for others to catch you or just suffer alone. So most of the time during the race I managed to somehow stay motivated and catch the guys in front, but even though it might look like an easy thing to do, it definitely wasn't. Most often when I participate in MTB type of races, it's not that casual that we are riding in such huge groups, so that's kind of, I can't say a new experience for me, but in that sense that throughout the 100 kilometers of distance you're most often somewhere in the group. That's definitely not common for me, so that was, I can say, something new as well. And one thing to mention that is you can see that there was no heart rate data for my whole data section on the screen, because Garmin heart rate monitor just for some reason died out on the day of racing without any notices, without any low battery notifications, etc. So that was kind of it, and it would be very interesting to see what it could have shown, because I guess that the numbers were high enough, I would say. And yeah, as you can see, that it's always a struggle to keep those guys on the flats, because with a lot thinner tires, they are faster rolling, and in general their body position is a lot more aerodynamic, so on flats it's very good to have them in front, because alone on just MTB bikes we would hardly manage to maintain that speed. And the good thing here was that we managed to catch this significantly huge group, out of which some guys continued racing with us towards the whole distance. So yeah, I might elaborate a bit more about the start of the race. So generally it was like I mentioned in the beginning, that if you participated in the past, you get the starting gate based on your past results. If not, you're going straight from the back. So you can imagine that, as in this year there was around 1,700 participants in this marathon full distance. So you would have starting the race somewhere like thousands. So it would be very complicated to overtake all of those. So instead you have to choose this year the time based on your expected finish result. So the first gate which I tried to enter, and which I did, was estimated finish time between 3 hours and 3 hours 15 minutes. It was my perfect plan of the race. If I would be able to hit that time frame, that would be my perfect plan. So we'll see how it went through. And finally, after significant amount of double tracks and gravel roads, we entered the forest, where it was a bit sketchy and muddy. And in these type of conditions, going after the gravel was not the best way, I guess. But applaudissements for the guys who managed to still maintain quite a huge speed in those conditions, and yeah, that was nice. So our group from like 25th kilometer or so haven't changed much. Maybe some guys disappeared from it, some added to it, but majority of the guys continued going for the whole distance. And here I tried to attack and at least try to close the gap from the front group, but once I started I noticed that no chances for me alone, and thanks for this guy, 102 it was, so if I'm not mistaken it's Markus. So thanks man for closing that distance. He was Estonian, and he actually finished 1 minute behind me, so you already now have a bit of a guidance how it went through for me. And those two guys in blue jersey was very strong on the course, and even though on some sort of forest tracks they were not the fastest, but whenever it started to go where power matters, and yeah, it was complicated. And whenever, that's also interesting point, but whenever it was out of a corner, everyone was pushing like hell. So it was very important to either after from the forest into the gravel roads to maintain their speed, or otherwise you would just get lost. And in the food points, organizers gave bottles. In some cases it was with water, and some with energy drink or electrolytes, something like that. So that was a nice thing to do, and if I kind of thought about this in the beginning, I probably would have taken only one bottle, but I took two, and I drank everything anyways, so yeah. So about the segments, you can see that there's some sort of short segments table on the left, where you can see the shortcodes of participants and their times. And here we could have seen that it was 45 kilometers up to the finish. So we kind of in the middle of the race. And here I was already struggling to keep up with the group, because we were just flying like hell, and in some cases it was too much for me. And here one Latvian guy slipped, and I can even say who he was because I checked it. It's Adolfs Zuna or Zuna, so he is from Latvia. He participated here for the first time as well, and he was riding strong here, but on that corner he skid over and almost hit someone. So basically, when we entered these dirt roads in the forest, most likely some guys tried to escape from the group in these conditions, and I believe maybe if not here, in our section they managed to do that. So good for them. And you can see that even though I'm putting like, yeah, so this is an uphill, so those 600-700 watts is not that much on the uphill, but in general, even on the flats, 500s were not enough to keep up with them. And this was probably the only uphill where we had to go off a bike if you are not too strong, or you just choose the wrong trajectory on the course, or if you put too big chainring on your bike. So I was running the 36 tooth oval, and that was a bit too much for me on this uphill. And basically it was kind of a factor which defined whether the group will split or not. So we are 40 kilometers up to the finish, and you can see that the gap is getting huge. So here I was kind of talking with myself what I should do, whether to try to catch them or just wait for someone to help me. But if I'm not mistaken, there was only a few guys behind in the distance, so that means we are not going anywhere far if we are just a few guys which not maintained the speed of a group, so we are not strong enough to catch them. And here the gentleman and here was, as you noticed, the guy passed me the drink, and it was, if you take a look back, it was like 30 plus kilometers per hour, and he gave me a cup of water, or I don't know what it was, I don't remember at that moment, but anyways, it was more than 30 kilometers per hour, and he managed to give it away for me without spitting any drip out of it, so that was a nice skill from him. So yeah, I was saying that it was a hard decision to make whether to continue chasing them or not. I'm talking about this group. But in the end, I decided that at least I should give it a try as usually. And we will see how it goes, but on this moment, it was a bit already too much for me. And even though for the past I kind of tried to take a look how they pedaling. So if they're reducing their cadence or on slight downhill they're not pedaling at all, that kind of was an indication for me that I can try to catch them. However, here even though you can see on my watts output, it wasn't much of an effort, but overall this section was very complex because it was non-rolling, and at this point I was kind of at the crashing moment where the powers a bit of disappeared for me. And you could have seen one guy with a gravel bike overtook me as well. So I kind of waited for a better rolling section where I could try to catch someone. And here we were 3 of us. And even though that guy was on gravel bike, he didn't manage to offer us the speed we wanted to get. So that was bad news for us, because we also talked about a bit with the guy here, and I am not exactly sure who he was, but he was definitely Estonian, because he said that the guys in front, there are 5 of them and at least 3 of them are very strong, so he knew them personally or just from other races. And that was a moment where we decided that we should at least try to keep an effort, but at the same time look whether there are any opportunities behind us. And thankfully, a few kilometers into that loneliness, we managed to figure out that there's a group coming behind us. And eventually it appeared to be that those were other Lithuanians, very fast guys from a top team and Volta's team. So that was an indication that we could try to maintain their speed. Everything is about maintaining the speed here, because it was, as you can see, 55 plus kilometers per hour in this section. So what you had to do is to just try to, at least try to go on their wheel. There were no questions about going in front, because I could barely maintain that speed behind the wheel. So yeah, thanks for those guys that they appeared at the right moment for us. And here I took a bottle, and as soon as I realized that it's just a pure water, I decided to throw away mine bottle and just instead, because it was kind of empty, and instead just take full fresh water. And yeah, that's a good time to drink. And actually I put the bottle in the cage and almost went off the track, because I definitely not as good riding with right hand as with left hand when it's talking about single hand driving. So yeah, you could have seen that one guy from top team went a bit too wide here, but in general I can't say that these kilometers were easy, because going in the forest on such high speed and trying to catch with those guys was a bit complex thing to do. And you could have seen that there were marks that 18 kilometers are left to the finish of the race, somewhere out that. And the thing is that when it was 20 kilometers left, those marks were every single kilometer. So that countdown from 20 to 1 or to finish line, it was very slow. I wish that we were less of those numbers, because you know that, alright, it's at least 20 or 40 or whatever minutes left at this pace, and you just hoping to survive, I would say. So yeah, there was like 6, 7, 8 of us, I believe. It's from 8 to 10 of us in this group. And what I realized during this race is that whenever I was the last one in the group, that caused me leaving out the group and then trying to catch them back. So instead I always try to be somewhere in the middle. So here I am running rolling 5th or 4th among our group, and that was a good thing to do. And here was a situation which kind of decided the end of the race for me. So in front I noticed that there is some water section and the mud. I noticed everyone braked a lot, I braked as well. And initially I thought that I managed to crash the guy on the left, but the thing is that after I took a look from the camera, I understood that most likely he didn't saw that we are braking. At the last moment he just tried to corner to the left, and that was a huge water splash there. What happened then is that he went into that water splash, and out of it he raised a huge amount of mud, which eventually went over my bike, and I lost the gearing, so shifting started not to work at all. And here we can see that a few moments ago I just removed a huge amount of mud from the bike, which was against the rolling of the rear wheel. And yeah, so here I just tried to very carefully to shift it in order not to lose the, not to stick the chain somewhere, because I had such situations where a chain ring drops because of the mud. So yeah, I tried to do something here, but eventually it wasn't rolling as good as it should be, and I understood that I won't be able to catch the group in front because the last 2 or 3 gears were not working at the moment, so it was just not able to shift there. In general, I had some shifting problems before the race as well, but definitely this was a different story and it was not related. So it was probably 6 or 7 kilometers up to the finish when this happened. Something like 6, I guess. And it means that I'm left alone here. So I took some RC Cola, which was good to have. And 3 kilometers into the finish, I noticed that there's still one guy who's behind. He is in a bit of a distance, but I didn't try to escape because I knew that I don't have enough rolling in general, and it was just painstakingly to ride here. So yeah, I just rode as I could, and at the same time looked through my shoulder in case someone huge coming towards me, but it was not the case. And after 2 kilometers behind me, this guy finally decided to go in front, and I didn't respond it. At the time I just thought that I'm not going to even try to, or at least 1 kilometer before the race it was a bit too early for me to do that sprint. So I kind of tried, but I noticed that he's running also fast enough. So here I made some poses for a photographer, and it was Jānis Juriso. He's also from Estonia. And just before the finish I started to put some extra effort, but what I noticed is that again on the smaller cogs it was not possible to ride because it was dropping off from the chain was dropping off from the ring, and I couldn't make that power output. So here you can see that only a few hundred meters left, and I just tried a bit, but I understood that it won't be possible to catch him, so that's not a big deal. And the good thing was that I managed to fit into 3 hours timestamp. So during the race I haven't looked at the clock much, and especially those last few kilometers I haven't looked at all. And here I noticed that I was just a bit 30 seconds behind the 3 hours, so that was my accomplishment of the day. And here was Ignas Gilis. He is legend from Lithuania who participated here for the 10th time, so he received a golden emblem of a marathon, so congratulations for him for doing that amazing work on the course. And that was kind of it. My first Tartu, hopefully not out of 10, but here is the medal for finishing the full race. And that was kind of it. I will, as usually, upload full on board sometime when it renders out. And that was kind of all the highlights of the day. So thanks for the time, and we will meet almost end of the season, but there are some starts still in Lithuania, so you can expect to have other highlights as well. Thanks for the time, and until next.